Hello again and welcome back. This time we are looking at. All my papers are in the wrong place now. We're looking at track 48. We're now moving into what many of my friends consider is the best decade, the 80s. And this is a track that hasn't featured before, so it's not a dropper, it's a new entry. And it's interesting because it's a nostalgic track, so it's one of those that I've decided afterwards that you can have nostalgia and quality as well. I knew that anyway, but there's more. I've realised now as I'm coming up to 50, there's more of the tracks in the chart that have that combination of quality and nostalgia that maybe the top 40 didn't have as much of. Also because I'm given the ability to increase the number by 10, so there's a chance to add in some of these tracks that wouldn't have maybe made a 40. This one is from 84 and should have been a single, but at the time, possibly even now, but at the time the theme was seen as controversial, being as it discusses one of the topics that we're not supposed to discuss, being religion. And so what happened was, instead of releasing it as a single, the band and the label apparently agreed to release the single as a double A side. So there's another of this particular band's big tracks is the double A side with this particular song. One of my absolute favourite bands. Love them to pieces and could easily have a top 50 of just their stuff. Hopefully Pete's not watching this right now, because he could just give me a challenge on that, which I'm not really up for just now. So you can hold off on that challenge of the top 50 of this band's. Although thinking about it, I could do a 50 of this band and another band that will be featuring at some point as well, which would be a pretty damn impressive playlist, I have to say. So that's one I might bear in mind. Anyway, 84, great album. Not one of the best albums, but still a great album with some cracking tunes on. This one, obviously. As I said, religion, although not in the way that some people thought it was. The two of the writers in the band said that it wasn't so much anti-religion as people were claiming, or anti-Christianity, but it was actually a criticism of a particular thing that goes on in church in England that I'm not aware of. So I don't know if it's a case of the church that I went to didn't do it, or it's a memory that I've tried to block out because it's too traumatic, because I really don't like the idea of it. But basically it's something, I can't remember what the list is called, but apparently in church on Sundays, what they do, the congregation, or the vicar obviously, reads out a list of people who are ill or dying, with those that are most likely to die soonest top of the list. So you get to be like top of the charts on, you're going to die soon, so we'll read your name out first on this prayer roll. So basically they read out this list of names, and then the congregation pray for those particular people. Must be a case of, because you're top of the list, because you're going to die in a couple of weeks, then you're given an extra boost of prayer by the congregation. Whereas if you're going to die in 6 months, you're down at the bottom of the pile, when those in the church are starting to get a bit bored and fed up and just doing a bit of an amen here and there without getting too carried away. And apparently it was one of the band who was popping to church on the Sunday because they had nothing better to do. Sounds a bit bizarre that times like that. I went to church because my mother and my grandmother forced me to, otherwise I wouldn't have gone near the place. But anyway, so there was a lot of speculation about the band losing family members or whatever, but it apparently was a criticism of this particular list. And the story I actually got wrong for I'd say the first 10 years I was listening to the song. I thought it was a song about different teenagers either having accidents or committing suicide, when actually it's one teenage girl who tries to kill herself and fails, and then when she's decided life's worth living, then she gets in a car accident and actually dies. And it was almost it's like this ironic twist thing about when she decided she wanted to go, God said, no, you're not, you're staying here, you're staying on earth, you've got a job to do, or you've got to play your part. And then a couple of years later I just decided, to be honest, you can die now that you're enjoying life. And there's basically the chorus where it says that God's got a sixth sense of humor, and that when I die I expect to find him laughing. So that obviously touched a nerve quite a few times. Several of you, I'd say most of you, pretty much know who this is now and what this one is. I realised actually as well that I cannot find my copy of the album, so I have to put this one up instead, which is the 101 tour of the USA in 1988, Depeche Mode, of course, with the double A side Blasphemous Rumours, released in 1984. Links available. Most of you have heard it. You know why I've picked it. It's a bit of a classic. If you don't know why, or you've not heard it, give it a listen. Recommended listen is with lyrics as well, because I think they're worth reading. Okay, see you for the next one.